Hi, I'm Phyllis from ISO in the doll corner. And today I'm going to start something different. I want I'm going to make a quilt, a sampler quilt of all different blocks. So I thought I'd take you along for the ride and show you how I'm making my sampler quilt and all the different blocks I'm going to put in it. And I'm using scraps of fabric. So that's what I'm going to show you, how I make this sampler block. This is our first block. So if you want to join me making a block, probably about once a week, uh, it'd be fun to see what we come up with for quilts and get using up some of those scraps again. They always seem to collect. So with that said, I'm going to show you how I made this block. It takes two 4-inch dark blocks. You could go 3 7/8, but I would prefer to go the 4 inches. It's easier to cut, and you can trim a little bit off. So you need two 4-inch blocks of the dark color and two of the lighter shade. And for this section of the block, you need 1.5 by 3.5. And you need the two colors. Well, you could make it any color. You could put 3 colors in there if you wanted. But I'm just doing this in this one particular block in 2 colors. You need a 3.5-inch block for the center. And that's basically all you need. And I'll show you how to make the half square triangles, and they're very easy to do, and I will show you my preferred method. There's all kinds of different ways to make it, a half square triangle, but I prefer this method, and I'll tell you why. I take my two 4-inch squares, a light and a dark, and I draw a line on the light one, corner to corner, and I sew down this a 1/4 inch from this line and a 1/4 inch on this side, and it should look something like that, only hopefully maybe a little straighter. It's not perfect, this one, but that's all right. It's just an extra. So then you cut down the center, and you have two half square triangles on that side and one from this side. Now, why I do it this way, like you could cut them and sew them together separately, or there's another method. You can make about 8 at a time, and you take a bigger block and cut it in 2 blocks together, a light and a dark, and then you sew them like this, and you end up with a lot of triangles. But the problem with that, they're all on the sides, all on the bias, and they can stretch out of shape pretty quickly. This one, you have the straighter grain on both sides, and this seam is already sewn. So if you stretched at it, it would certainly go out of shape, but it's not as apt to. So that's why I prefer this method over a lot of the other methods of making a half square triangle. Now, okay, this is what we want. For this block, you need 3 pieces. Now, if you have a long piece of scraps, you're fine. If you're not, then you can make it a different way. But if you go your 1.5 inch strips and you sew the 3 together, and then you can just cut off your 3.5 inches. And that's an easy way of making them. But if you have just little scraps left, then you sew a light one and a dark one together, and they're just 3.5 inches long by 1.25 inches. So this will use up a lot of little scraps. And you sew those together, and you end up with a block that looks like that. And I like to press to the dark side, especially when I have a light fabric. And then we get those blocks made. We just have the 3.5 inch block for the center, or square, I guess I should be calling it. So a 3.5 inch square of the plain color, and then you add your 2 stripe blocks on either side. And then you sew, and I press my seam inward to the dark. And then with this one, I have my half square triangle here, and here I put my white or light side out to the corner, and this in. And I press these out, and it fits like that. And then we do the same for the top. So that makes our bird's nest, hen's nest, or whatever you want to call this block. It's a fun block to put together, and it's an easy block once you really, the only thing that is your half square triangle, but if you do it this way, they're not hard to make. But if you didn't want to make a half square triangle, we can change this block by just putting, now these should be, if you're just using the plain block, you'll want to make it 3.5 inches as well, not the 4-inch block. Now this is a 3.5 inch block. These are 4-inch blocks, but so that makes a nice looking block as well. So you could just make it with the plain. I don't know whether you'd call it a bird's nest, or whether you'd have to give it a different name maybe. But as I said, it makes a nice looking block as well. So it's a fun block to make. And we'll be back next week with another one. And so find your scraps, because we don't want to use good fabric. well, we want to use good fabric, but now, so what I was going to say. Anyway, subscribe to my channel so you won't, and touch the bell to be notified when my next video comes out, my next blog. And check out my Etsy shop for my doll patterns. And thanks for watching. Bye now.